Yorana, and welcome to Filled with His Love. If things go as planned, this episode will air during our plane ride back home to the U.S. Our mission has come to a close. So many feelings colliding with each other during the past several weeks. It's been quite hard, actually. There's a word in French called accablé, which means overwhelmed, which is a little bit what we've been working up to this point. I will confess that there is a feeling of relief at times. I say that because at the age of 78 and 77, we are getting up there in age for a foreign mission. And the simple fact that we are still alive at the end of it is a relief. Our health has been much better than one might hope, and for that we are forever grateful. There are also feelings of longing, both longing to see our family face to face again and longing to keep in touch with the amazing people we have met during our mission. The young missionaries we've served with keep asking about getting together after the mission, and because so many of them will be attending BYU, I'm sure we'll have some fun parties in our backyard when we return. This mission has stretched us in 100 ways. The language, the culture, the hundreds of plane reservations, the demands on us to help solve problems with health and housing and travel, you name it, this mission has thrown as much at us as we could have ever imagined. There have been moments of frustration and moments of elation. I'm reminded of a bit of counsel my first mission president gave when I first arrived in Tahiti 60 years ago. He said this: "You'll experience emotional highs and lows. The highs will be higher and the lows will be lower than you've ever experienced before in your life." That counsel doesn't apply to us totally because we've lived a lot longer than I had lived 60 years ago. But in some ways, it does apply because our life was simpler before we were serving in this mission. Much less responsibility, many fewer demands. Elder Bednar once said, quote, "We come to know the Savior as we do our best to go where He wants us to go, as we strive to say what He wants us to say, and as we become what He wants us to become. As we submissively acknowledge our total dependence on Him, He enlarges our capacity to serve ever more effectively. Gradually, our desires align more completely with His desires, and His purposes become our purposes, such that we would not ask that which is contrary to His will." End quote. We have experienced just what he's been talking about during our mission. We had to depend totally on the Lord. And in those moments, you draw closer to Him and feel His presence more deeply. That is why service in the kingdom is not only a duty, a responsibility, but it is a sacred gift. The capacity to serve, the desire to serve, and the perseverance to serve all come directly from the Lord. He's the one who opens our heart, who softens our heart, who makes it possible for us to serve His children. Last night, we saw a missionary off at the airport, not something we usually do. But this missionary was returning home early because of health challenges. He needed to be accompanied on his journey, and so a service missionary, who also happened to be a skilled health professional, was asked by the church to fly from the U.S. to Tahiti so he could accompany this missionary back home. Several missionaries who had served with the returning missionary came to the airport to see him off. They each brought a shell lei to put around his neck as they hugged him and said goodbye. We also brought shell leis and placed them around his neck with all the others as we hugged him goodbye. Then the mission president and his wife came with their leis and hugs. Prior to coming to the airport, the returning missionary had received lots of shell leis from members where he was serving. As the missionary and his escort were leaving to go through security, the escort pulled me aside, and as he spoke to me, with moist eyes, he said, "Elder Osgathorpe, it has been such an honor to be with you here today. I can feel the love in this mission." Then he put his hand over his heart. "I really can feel the love you all have for this missionary, and that makes me happy. It's just an honor to be with you." As they were walking toward the security line, I wished I could have reached out one more time to give the missionary one last hug, but we had already done that several times. He was ready to depart, loaded with shell lays. I thought how those lays are in one way symbolic of Tahitian love. They are tangible signs of how much love we have for someone who has served us or served alongside us. They are gifts from one missionary or one member to another. This missionary loved his mission, even though he could not serve a full 2 years. I am convinced that his offering was more than acceptable to the Lord. He did all he could to bless others, and then, as he left them, they wanted to bless him and remind him how much his service had meant to them. Figuratively speaking, I think that the Lord places shell lays around our neck and gives us a hug as we serve him. Every time we look at the shell lay, we think of his love, his grace, his mercy, his support for us when we struggle or stumble. That is why I see service as a sacred gift. We give our gift of service to the Lord, however meager it might be or however inadequate we might feel at the time. We are blessed in the giving of our gift because the gift we are giving, our service, came from God himself. Without his help, our service would be empty and we would fall short. But with his help, we can do what once seemed impossible. So I'm glad we have served this mission. I'm grateful that we have felt his love for us and for the missionaries we serve, as we've been trying to do our best to help them. And I hope I can periodically imagine the Lord placing a shell lay around our necks and giving us a hug, as I'm sure he did for that missionary returning home. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.